What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Dad Does Video. Today I'm coming at you from my car because I want to talk about something related to cars. Now, typically I get into some of the things around the house, how to fix things, some tips like that, sharing my experiences. Well, today I wanted to share some of my experience working through what I wanted to do when one of my car's lease term ended. So I would assume some of you out there lease your cars, and we've done that for probably the last 10 years. And I'm not going to get into the pros and cons of whether you should lease or buy a car. There are certainly good things about leasing a car and buying a car, and certainly some poor things about leasing a car or buying a car. And that's up to everybody's individual preference. What I wanted to share with you, however, is my experience at the end of my lease term and what I did. And perhaps that's something that you might want to do. So typically what happens at the end of a lease term, and some of you out there are probably just nodding your heads in agreement with me, because you start thinking about this stuff probably about 6 months before your lease term ends, and whether that's a 3-year lease, a 4-year lease, whatever you have set up. But you have a few options at the end, right? You can either take your car back to the dealer, drop it off, and kind of wash your hands of the whole situation and be done and go get a car somewhere else. You can buy your car at the end of your lease term, and then you can also take your car back and buy a car or lease another car from the dealership as well. So there's a fourth option that I feel like a lot of people don't really investigate, and it can really pay off. And that is selling your leased car. And sometimes this situation isn't really viable depending upon what the contract details are of your leased car. Some manufacturers put in the lease contract, hey, you're not allowed to sell this leased vehicle, or if you do, there's a penalty, those kinds of things. But most of the time you are allowed to sell your leased car. And I want to tell you about my experience. What I wanted to talk about specifically is selling your leased vehicle to CarMax. Now, if you're not familiar with CarMax, it is a huge used car dealership. They have locations all over the country, all over the United States. And their claim to fame is that when you go there, there's no negotiation. You don't have to go back and forth with the salespeople, right? The price of the car is the price of the car. They're not going to try to sell you, something else on top of it. It's just what it is, which, from a buying standpoint is probably a good thing, unless you like to get into negotiating with car dealerships. I have yet to meet someone who really enjoys that process, however. But what a lot of people don't know is that you can sell your cars there, and you can sell your leased vehicle to CarMax as well. And it follows the same process. There's no back and forth. There's no negotiation. And here's why you might want to consider selling your leased vehicle when it comes up to return it at the end of a lease. So most often in every contract with a manufacturer for a leased vehicle, there is a disposition fee. So when you are at the end of your contract or at the end of your lease and you take it back to the dealer, there's typically somewhere between a $300 and maybe $700 charge for you to take back the car. It's called a disposition fee, but you're basically paying for the manufacturer to receive it, do some work on it, get it ready to sell again. Now, if you were to lease a new vehicle with that same manufacturer, or maybe even buy a car, they typically waive that because they're getting repeat business. But if you wanted to go there, drop off the lease, just be done with it, they will not waive that. And not only is there a disposition fee, but you also have to worry about wear and tear on the car itself, some nicks, some scratches, how much tire tread is left. And you also have to worry about mileage. So if you're in a situation where you don't want to go through that and you want to perhaps explore just being done with that manufacturer and getting a different type of vehicle, perhaps selling your car is the way to go, because this way you can avoid all of that stuff. Now, sure, you can absolutely sell your lease vehicle again, if the contract allows you to a dealer or even privately. that's not a problem, but sometimes that gets a little murky, and there's a lot of time invested in that. So not only are you shopping for a new car, you are also trying to get a straight price and a fair price on your car that you want to get rid of. And sometimes when you're doing both at the same time and you're working with dealers and you're going back and forth on negotiating the new car and the sale price of the old car, things get a little murky. You're not sure how the numbers add up. I like to keep things a little bit separate. So that's the benefit of doing the CarMax method. And of course, you could sell privately too, but then again, you are also still trying to field multiple offers, perhaps from different people. They want to test drive the car. They want to take it to their mechanic. There's still a lot of time invested. Perhaps you put ads in on Craigslist or wherever you want to advertise. So there's still a lot of time and effort involved in that. And if you're like me, sometimes you don't technically care about the profit, so to speak, of selling your lease vehicle. You just want to avoid, and this is what I wanted to do, you just wanted to avoid those disposition fees, the wear and tear, any of the mileage fees on top of it. So that's why the CarMax route is a decent way to go. The first step is downloading the CarMax app, or even just going to the CarMax.com website. There will be a little button at the bottom of the CarMax app. It says sell. You click that. You fill out some personal information. You schedule a time to come in. You can do the same thing on the CarMax.com website. Also on the website, you can get kind of a quick offer, and it'll give you a price quote right there, or a sales quote right there. Now you still have to come into the actual an actual CarMax location for them to verify the condition of your car, the mileage, all that stuff. But if you wanted to get kind of a rough estimate on what you might be able to get, then that option's available to you as well. I did not do that. I figured if I really wanted to pursue this, I'm going to actually schedule a time, go there in person, let them kind of take a look at my car and go from there. So once you get your time scheduled, you go to the CarMax location that you chose, and you walk in, you tell them that you're there. They tell you, they'll verify a couple things with you, might take like 5 minutes. Then you go out, wait by your car, and someone will come out, an actual person who takes pictures of your car, might ask you a couple questions, those kinds of things. I think it took maybe 10, 15 minutes for me to go through that process. That person leaves. It's another maybe 10 or 15 minutes. You go inside, you wait. And then what will happen is the person you initially met with when you first walked in the facility will come over to you, hand you an actual piece of paper that says, hey, this is what your offer is, and it's an actual hard number. There are no ranges, and it's based specifically on your car, the condition of the car at that time, what extra features it has, those kinds of things, the mileage, everything. So you can decide what you want to do with that at the time. You have up to 7 days to make a decision. So if you want to sell right now or right at that time, you can do that. If you wanted to come back 4 days from then, you can do that, as long as you don't go out and drive 20,000 miles, or you come back and your car's bashed. You're perfectly fine. The offer is the offer. It still holds its value. And once you get that offer, here's kind of a little silver lining. If you want to kind of shop around your car, at least you have an estimate from a reputable place. At least it gives you a baseline, right? So if you're thinking, hey, and I'm just making this up, right? I got a $25,000 offer from CarMax for my leased vehicle. But you know what? I want to shop around at these 3 other dealerships and see if they'll give me something similar. It's great to have that in your back pocket, so a reputable place gave you an offer and you could use that to your advantage. But when you do, and if you do decide to go back to CarMax to sell your car, there's no need to make an appointment. You just show up, bring your offer with you, make sure you have your keys with you for your car. I know that sounds silly, but sometimes people only show up with 1 set of keys, and they're typically 2. Make sure you have your title and any other paperwork with you. And if there are other people who sign the lease agreement, make sure that those folks come with you as well. I'm thinking perhaps, spouses here, right? Because they'll need to verify each person's signature when you go to sell it. But you walk in, you show them your offer. The folks who are helping you out guide you to the place in the CarMax facility that will help you with all the documentation. You go over there, you show them your offer, you say, hey, I'm here to sell my car. They'll ask you for the documentation and the keys, and they'll get started creating the paperwork. Takes maybe about a half hour or so. They'll also, when the office folks are doing that, someone will go verify your car again, just to make sure the conditions haven't changed in the past 3 months, that you didn't, or in the past 7 days. So, you know, you didn't drive 20,000 miles or get in a fender bender where, you know, the condition of your car has changed drastically. But that's it. I left within a half hour. They cut me a check. Again, I didn't make a ton of profit. It was, I think, a couple $100. But to me, just getting rid of that car without having to go back to the dealership, pay the $400 or $500 disposition fee, deal with some of the scratches that I had, deal with some of the low tread on the tires, save me probably $700, $800, $900. So you don't really see that right there. You see the couple $100 that I got just from the sale of the car, but to not have to go through that process and knowing in the back of my head that I saved that money by not going through that process made it worthwhile to me. So if you're at the end of a lease, you don't know what to do, you're thinking, hey, maybe I want to get rid of this car, maybe I want something else. If you're not going to re-up with that current manufacturer with another lease, or maybe even buy a new car or buy the car that you're in, your current lease vehicles, CarMax is certainly an option you should consider to sell your car. Thanks for watching.